Hello, David here with Northwest Outdoor Adventures, and this is the post-race podcast. I'm here with...
Courtney's here as well.
Yep, so we're both here. It has been a while. This is the first episode of 2019.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. And, well, how you been?
I've been good. Been actually training this time, so that's good.
That is good. Yeah, we're still together. Made it through another harsh year of running, and no, but seriously, so I'm happy to be back. When was the last time we had an episode? I don't even know.
I don't know,
December?
2 months ago? Yeah.
Yeah, so we got through all of January. We did not run any races in January. We were close to doing a race, but...
I don't remember why we didn't do it, but we didn't.
The weather kind of sucked, and it was just the last minute, so it didn't work out. But anyways, we're here now, and we did just do a race last weekend.
Yeah, Run Forest Run.
Yep, Run Forest Run, 25K. And so that is what we're going to be covering today in this episode, is that Run Forest Run 25K, which we both did the 25K.
Yep.
But before we jump into that, let's do a little catch-up and talk about what's going on. So for starters, we got 2 microphones. Holy shit. Like, who could have thought we'd afford that? But yeah, the podcast is doing really well. We've increased to like 20 listeners. So we sprung for another microphone. And yeah, I'm sure this first episode, we're testing some things out. So the audio quality, I will preemptively apologize for, because I think there may be a slight echo or something. I'm not sure if I'll be able to figure it out in post or not, but part of it's a product of the room we're in. So our house is an open concept house, and there's a slight echo already in the house.
Yes.
So we don't really have a good room to film in. This is actually our kitchen.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. So we're those douchey people that have all of our, for those that are listening and not watching, we actually have all of our bibs and race medals and everything. Well, actually all mine. Courtney's are in a different room, but all of mine are hung up on the wall right behind us. And so that's our actual, like you can see it from our living room and our kitchen, because this is kind of like a dining room area that connects the two.
And it's displayed year round.
It is always
we've
up.
Had it up.
Yeah, we do not only put it up for the podcast, it is always there. So yeah, we are judged when people come into our house and see that. So a little embarrassing, but anyways, the more you know. Now you got some behind the scenes information. So again, I apologize if the audio is not perfect in this episode. Hopefully it'll be improved in the next one, or even better. Maybe it's okay and it doesn't matter and I'm just wasting time. Anyways, so no sponsors. No sponsors to cover. Probably don't ever plan on having sponsors, but I'm not adverse to taking money from people, so we'll see. But no plans in the future for that yet. Other business to attend to before we jump into the race here. The last episode we had was looking forward to 2019.
Yes.
Which and if you haven't checked that out, please do. That is where we cover all the races that we plan on doing for 2019. And so in that, the only thing that has changed for me, well, actually, there's been quite a few changes. So really, it's just additions. So in that time period, I was talking about doing, I think it was the Mount Hood 50 mile, and that is a lottery race. And I did not get into that race. So boo-hoo for me. That kind of sucked, because I was really hoping to do that one. It's this cool 50 mile down, obviously in Oregon by Mount Hood. And I didn't get in. So that was a bummer, but I found a new race to do, which helped me out too, because it's a Western States Qualifier, which a couple people mentioned to me, and I didn't really realize it. It didn't even cross my mind that, at least initially, that I hadn't signed up for a Western States Qualifier. So for those that don't know, which I don't know if there's anyone that's listening to this that doesn't know, but in order to put your name in the hat for Western States, you have to have ran a qualifier the previous year. And so and that can be, there's a bunch of different races. There's a complete list on their website that tells you all the races. And anyways, I wasn't signed up for one previously. So when I didn't get into that 50 miler, I went ahead and found one of the few left that still had space, fit in my schedule, and qualified me to run Western States if I'm lucky enough to get drawn. And that was the Never Summer 100K in Colorado. Yep, in Colorado, I think Gould, Colorado or whatever. So the entire race takes place, at high elevation, I think.
10,000?
On average, yeah, it's above 10,000 feet for the majority of the race. I think it goes as high as 14. I think you do cross a couple 14ers or something like that. So that is a gnarly ass race. And I'm looking forward to it a ton because it reminded me a lot of the Bigfoot 100K actually. And so I saw a lot of the specs at least are very similar to Bigfoot. It's just, you know, it's 5,000 feet higher pretty much for the whole thing, maybe even a bit more, I guess. So that it is very intriguing. It scares me because that not only am I going to be doing something that's super difficult, but you also have a time limit. So you can't just get it in under the cutoff. You have to get it actually within a time limit to qualify for Western States. So I think it's 23 hours for that. And I think the overall cutoff is maybe 24 hours or 25 hours, something like that. I should probably know that, but it's still a ways out. So I think that's taking place at the end of July.
I think it is July or August.
Yeah, something like that. So anyways, that's the major difference to my schedule. And I think, Courtney, you had some changes as well.
Yeah, I did do a couple changes. The changes that I had... well, I was talking about doing the 100K, and I actually still haven't decided if that's going to happen or not.
That is the Bigfoot 100K?
Yes, the Bigfoot 100K. I'm still really terrified for that and not quite sure if I'm going to be able to get that distance by the end of the year.
Well, to be fair, that is a gnarly-ass race. I mean, talk about hard things, especially being your first 100K, which it was my first 100K. That is a doozy of a race. I mean, that is...
And I had backcountry rides be my first 50K, and I don't think I want to do that again.
That was no slouch of a race. I mean, that's pretty much just doing backcountry rides twice. And it's in the same area, but you do go over some more, or at least I'll say different, not necessarily more difficult, but the terrain can definitely be different.
And I'm really terrified of water. For some reason, I have a phobia now of crossing through.
A phobia that was developed from Bigfoot 100K when you paced me.
Just probably for another podcast, but gosh, I'm terrified of crossing rivers or even just like any type of water. Like if I hear it at all, I get scared. That has 3 or so river crossings, and I don't want to do that. So that's one of the main reasons why that race is probably not one that I'm gonna do this year. But
it has a lot more than 3. I'll tell you that. So, but yeah, I can understand why you may not want to do that as your first 100K. But
yeah, I haven't fully decided yet, but I'm not 100% on that. And then I also signed up for Tiger Claw May 4th,
which is the ginger runner.
Yeah,
so Kim and Ethan Newberry.
Yeah,
they're putting on a race up here in the Pacific Northwest, out in the Issy Alps, which is they're calling it Tiger Claw, and it's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So I did sign up for that, which actually
good tell news them why it's crazy.
Well, it's a little over 8,000 feet a gain, and it's a 3-loop kind of a course. From what I read, I believe every loop you get a coin, and then at the end, if you have 3 coins, you finish the race. But you kind of get to choose your route. Like it's not set in stone the route that it is, which to me scares me.
So, but it makes it a little bit, it's definitely a unique race in that sense. Yeah. So it sounds pretty cool. And on top, so it's 22 miles with 8,100 feet of climbing and 22 miles. So it is.
So it's like every 3 miles, you're like 1,000 feet a gain or something like that. It's pretty crazy, but I'm happy because David actually signed up for that one with me. So at least I have the company to help push me along. And
yeah, which for me kind of sucks because it's the week before the Sun Mountain 50 miler. So my plan for that is to just kind of take it easy and
which I will be. So he'll just be going with me.
Yeah, hopefully I'm just looking to film it mostly and take it easy. And if I need to drop, if I can, I might drop after a lot. Who knows? It's not really a race that I'm trying to do anything special at. Just support Courtney more or less.
Yeah.
So
I have that race, and then I'm trying to think if there's any others that I said. So we're doing the DuPont, DuPont half.
And we'll talk about that
this weekend. But
episode.
I think that's the only thing I actually added to my list. Everything else was accurate from what I had in December. So yeah, that's the fun. That's the update. For the new year.
Is there anything else to talk about before jumping into the race? Now that we're probably like 10 minutes in to the podcast.
I mean, I don't think
we'll finally get to the content that we have listed here on the title.
Yeah, no, I think we're good to jump in. So Run Forest Run. We did this last weekend, 25K.
Yeah, so this this race is in Montesano, Washington, out at Lake Sylvia State Park. I had never been out there really to run or do anything.
I don't think I had either. It looked
I
really
probably
familiar,
never will,
but
again.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, like I mentioned, it's again in Washington. We are Pacific Northwestern, so the majority of the races that we do are in this area. And this just being a quick little 25K, it's put on by the Ole Trail Runners, which is just a trail running group here in Olympia, Washington. It might just be a Facebook page. I don't really know. I'm a part of it. And everyone in there is super nice. I have not done any group runs, or I really haven't been an active member of that community, but I think I would like to be. I mean, they all seem like nice people, and the people at the event were super nice. So definitely would like to be more involved in our local running scene, but we're kind of lone doggies.
Yeah.
So we just really don't. I mean, I'm a pretty solitary person as it is. I barely talk to Courtney, so
God.
just kind of live together. But no, anyways, so yeah, like I mentioned, that area is the Lake Sylvia State Park, which, again, as I mentioned, I had never been to before. And the park itself is actually very small. I think it's only maybe a mile, or even, I don't even know if it's much bigger than that, but there's a lake in there.
I didn't really notice.
It looks like a couple ponds.
Yeah. Maybe a good place for the summer.
Yeah, it's more,
jump in the lake.
Yeah, it reminds me of a small, like, little picnic area. And
reminds me of like a camp that you would go to or something.
Yeah, I think there is a campground or two around that area. But so anyways, as far as the terrain goes, it's a lot like other areas in kind of like the Olympic Peninsula type, I don't know, Puget Sound area, where it's fairly rocky and rooty. And to be honest, a lot of the course reminded me some of Squamish, some sections of it, because it's a lot of the single track that there was mountain bike. Yeah, I mean, there was even like the mountain bike ramps and everything like that. So
I actually didn't even notice that.
Some of it, yeah, I definitely noticed it. Some of it was kind of rutted out, and there's probably a reason why you didn't notice some of that, but we'll cover that in a bit.
Yeah, it was too muddy and snowy for me to notice anything, actually.
But yeah, to paint the picture of the actual course, so you start out running on the road for close to a mile, I think. In your total, I think there's about, I don't know, maybe
2 miles?
I guess it's actually listed on this website, so I could give you accurate information if I just read this. So from their website, on oletrailrunners.com, and of course we'll link to this in the YouTube video if you're watching from there, which thanks for watching on YouTube. And if you're listening to this, it may or may not be in the show notes. I have no idea. But either way, you can find it by going to oletrailrunners.com, and on there you'll see Run Forest Run if you're interested in doing this race in the future, which is probably what brought you to this podcast anyways. But so as far as the information is concerned, the 25K is 2,400 feet of climbing, and it's spread out fairly well. It's not like there's a couple huge climbs and the rest is flat. It's like pretty flowy and hilly. Yeah, I mean, it's like, excuse me. There's some like minor climbs and then some somewhat steep descents and some steep climbs. So it's not just bundled into one or two big climbs in, that 15 and a half miles. It's actually dispersed pretty well. So I actually liked the flow of the course.
I did too.
Quite a bit. Now, like I mentioned, there is some pavement that you're running on, so some blacktop.
I actually didn't mind the blacktop.
It's just a road, but it's at the start and finish pretty much. So it's not that bad. It's not like you're in the middle of the race having to run a couple miles on the road.
Yeah.
And then there is actually a 50K option on this as well. But before I get to that, I'll finish off describing the course itself. So from the website, it says it's mostly double or single track and gravel road with less than 2 miles of paved road for the 25K course. And I would say it was pretty evenly split between double track, single track, and logging roads, which I guess they're describing as gravel roads here. Which I don't really like to.
I hate logging roads.
Yeah, I don't like running. I don't like running on logging roads either.
It's my least favorite.
And I mean,
thing to do.
To be fair, dude, double track to me is just another way to say like an old logging road, pretty much. Yeah. So, which there was a lot of that. I would say, a good portion of it was that. However, in this particular race, I actually, when I saw that, I was kind of happy because due to the conditions, it made it a little easier to actually move quickly.
That's fair.
And then the single track itself some of it was pretty gnarly. It was like pretty steep little cuts and descents and things like that. And some of the climbs were kind of rough. But overall, it had a good varying degree of difficulty throughout. And I liked the actual course itself quite a bit. So
yeah, I did too.
I mentioned there was a 50K option. So this is just a big loop that you run out here or out there. And the 50K just does the loop twice, which, man, I don't.
Just in those conditions, I would have never wanted to do that twice. That would have not been a 50K I would have wanted to do.
I don't even know if it was a nice day if I would want to do that twice, but
I think I would have been okay doing it twice. It wasn't that bad. But the conditions, like the snow was terrible.
All right, big shot.
I'm just saying, like, if that was a 50K, that I would probably do that 50K.
Do 150K and now you know.
Well, it's only like 5,000 feet, less than that.
That's not insignificant. 5,000 feet's not, it's not flat. I'll tell you that.
8.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, what's next on our list? So we actually have a format that we're trying to follow now in these new seasons, or this new season of the Post Race Podcast, the 2019 season. So we're trying to structure this out a little bit better. So, I mean, I guess let's just summarize kind of what we're going to go through here. So we're going to waste a bunch of time in the beginning talking about the future, which we did. And then we're going to have a race overview.
We've got our training for basically like the prior 6 weeks going up to the races.
Okay, so we'll talk about training next.
And then our race goals. And then just the race day, talk about the weather, the drive, what we ate, packet pickups, start of the race, and then just kind of go back into gear, our favorite item of gear, our least favorite item of gear, and then kind of just what's next and wrap it up.
Yeah.
And that's what we have. So what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about our race goals now, or?
I want to follow the format that we defined earlier. Yeah, so that would be...
So then we're on training.
Yeah, we're talking about the training now. So go for it. What was your training like? And let's do like the 6 weeks or so leading up to the race, or even 4 weeks or something like that.
So I've just structured. I actually bought a kind of like a calendar type journal.
So you're one of those New Year runners who's...
Well, actually, this really helped me when I was training for Capital Forest. I mean, what? No, sorry. When I was training for my half, Capital City, out here, that was something that I did when I was a really new runner. I hadn't ran before really anything further than like 5 miles maybe. And so I would run, and every time I'd run, I'd put a sticker on the day I ran. So when I looked back at my calendar, I could see, I ran 4 times this week, or so on and so forth. So I've been doing that actually, and it's really helped me. I've taken like 1 or 2 days off a week, and I've written down my mileage and put on a sticker for every day that I've ran. And so I've been doing really good for the past, 2 months or so. Since January is when I started. So
what do you think your weekly mileage is looking like?
So I started
if you can recall.
Yeah, actually I started out at exactly 20 miles for the first 2 weeks. And then every week I've added about 2 or 3 miles onto it. So now I'm up to about 30 miles.
Oh God, that's a very noble way to do it. I think most training plans have it structured similar to that. So that's probably good for you. Myself, I have not followed any training plan or anything like that. I've kind of just done the old David method of running how I feel. So I do, okay, well, that's not entirely true. I do try to stick to a certain number. I like to be plus or minus 5 miles within 30 miles. So, typically I'd like to hit at least 30 miles a week during my maintenance period or time, which this is what I view as maintenance mode, is the winter, where I'm just pretty much in hibernation, waiting for the sun to come out and the days to get longer so that I can actually enjoy running outside as opposed to being just soaking wet the entire time. So, and for me, that'll typically consist of, running mostly 6 days a week, where I'm doing, mostly short runs, like 3 to 5 miles during the weekdays. And then I'll do one longer run, like 10 to 12 to like 10 to 13 miles on the weekends. So
it's also been really nice too, because I actually took off Sundays because I'm kind of scared to run alone, and I want to have a day where I do a long run. And so we're kind of trying to make Sunday my long run for the week. So that's nice too, that I have a day to run with David as well. Yeah.
So overall, my training, I don't know. I knew I would finish the race. To be honest, this is just kind of a good little training block addition, an addition to the training block. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually the same for me. It's crazy thinking about last year, because if I would have signed up for a 25K, I think I would have been pretty scared or nervous going into it, thinking like, man, this is a long race for me. Like, I'm probably going to be really sore and not be able to do this. But I don't know. This year I kind of thought of it differently, and it just seemed like something that was going to prepare me for my 50K in like a couple of months. So
yeah, this is pretty much just a stair, one stair on the staircase up to, for me, 200 miler. But yeah, so I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things. So overall, yeah, training was fine, I suppose. Not really structured for me. Sounds like you had some structure.
I'm trying to, yeah.
Yeah, so, you're doing good. I mean, I've seen you be diligent with your running, and a lot of treadmilling. I've been doing a lot of treadmilling.
I've kind of been doing a lot of treadmilling too, which I'm getting really sick of. It was nice in the beginning because I was watching a lot of like weird serial killer type things.
Yeah, so for the viewers and listeners, we actually have a really nice treadmill set up. It is really nice. We have a room dedicated to just a treadmill and some workout equipment in our house, and
with a window with a nice breeze because it is cold out.
Nice window right next to it, a fan in there if it's too hot or too cold or whatever. And then we also have a TV set up right in front of it with Netflix, and it's got a Roku on it, so we have access to all that stuff. So for me, I actually have only watched the show The Vikings or Vikings, whatever. And I've watched that ever since I bought the treadmill like 3 years ago. And that's the only way I've consumed the show is through the treadmill. So I just, in my mind, my brain is like hardwired now to recognize like treadmill equals Vikings, Vikings equals treadmill. So if I hear about the show or anything like that, I think about a treadmill now. Like whatever, Pavlov's dog that drools when it hears the bell. So yeah, that's my story with treadmilling, which I've been doing a lot of. So I'm almost fully caught up on Vikings is what that means.
All right. So next step, race goals.
Yeah, my goal was to fucking win it, dude.
Yeah, which he actually really came close.
No.
Yes, he did.
I did not come close. No,
you got 5th overall guy.
Yeah. So the plan, I'm not kidding when I say I did want to win though. And
I thought
the
he
reason
was kidding.
Yeah, I say that for every race. But I was kind of serious about this because I looked at the people who were signed up. And the times that I saw, I was like, I'm actually might be able to do that. The projected times that Ultra Sign Up will show. So I looked through that and I was like, because I think it was actually projecting the winners to be like 2:20 to like 2.5 hours. And I was like, if that's the winning time, I could potentially get that. And so that was my plan. I was like, well, we'll just see how it goes. Like, I feel pretty good. I can probably run most of this. And, I feel like if there's one thing that I'm actually good at when it comes to running, on trails at least, because I'm definitely not the fastest person out there, I can at least bomb down hills.
And he's good at climbing up hills.
Well, that's debatable, but I am good at technical climbing and technical downhill. So if it's very steep, then I can keep up with most people. And if it's very steep downhill, I can usually pass most people. So I'm a little agile, but I'm also a little slow. So if it's a gradual uphill, then maybe not so much. Because I'm not going to run most uphills. I'm going to power hike, even if it's kind of just gradual. So anyways, yeah, I had some high hopes for myself. I was really hoping to podium, to be honest. That was kind of the main goal when I was first looking at the list. I was like, okay, it'd be cool to get top 3, and then I could get a little trophy from Ultra Sign Up next to my name, because I don't have any, because like I mentioned, I'm pretty slow.
I don't have any either.
So what was your goal? Did you have a goal or was it just to finish? Or?
I mean, to finish for sure. And then actually my goal, once I got there, I didn't really have a goal leading up to it. I just wanted to finish and was just happy to be doing another race. But my goal when I got there was, and I didn't realize there was going to be snow and whatever, but was 4 hours, finish in 4 hours. And that didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, time-wise, I was hoping to be in between 2:15 to 2:30, which did not happen for me either. Spoiler alert. So, yeah, that's pretty much the goals. Let's just talk about the day itself, like how the race panned out and everything related to that.
Yeah, so we woke up and we drove there. The race started at 8 o'clock. So we got there about 7:15 or so. Went to go get our packets. And actually, there was quite a long line. A lot of people were signing up for the race the day of. And it was pretty cold out. So that was kind of annoying because
part
we
of
had
the
to
reason
wait
why I
in
didn't
that
win.
So packet pickup. Race started at 8. Did you eat anything? I didn't eat anything for breakfast.
Yeah,
you
I
had
did.
a Pop-Tart, right?
Yeah, I had a strawberry, the classic, the strawberry. Well, I had one single strawberry Pop-Tarts. Yeah. And,
I had a sip of your Rockstar.
And I had the classic. I always try to drink. It's stupid. Well, I don't know if it's stupid, but I can't imagine it's that good for you, is basically what I mean. So I almost always do an orange Rockstar, which is the non-carbonated Rockstar. And my argument, well, not really argument, but my justification, well, not even that, but basically the reason why I drink that is because, for one, it tastes super good.
He drinks it every day,
essentially
every
addicted to it at this point. So
we have like 48 in our fridge.
Well, it's cheaper to buy it by the case at this point. So, but to be fair, though, there's only 6 grams of sugar per can. So 3 grams per serving. When you compare that to other energy drinks like Red Bull or anything like that are, 10, 20 times that. So, it could be worse. Is all I'm saying.
Drank them for a really long time, and I used to absolutely hate them. But now, if it's like really cold, it's good. So,
well, obviously, I love them.
I used to hate them. I don't love them, but I do. I sometimes enjoy them after a run if they're really cold, and a sip before like any road trip or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I'm proud of. I'll say that. Yeah, I don't. It's not like I'm telling other people to do that because I don't think that's a good idea. But
okay,
that is what I do.
That and a Pop-Tart. I had nothing. I just had a drink of his Rockstar, and that was it. And then the race started. We drove about 45 minutes there.
It's about an hour.
An hour? Okay.
Yeah, so we live close to Olympia, Washington, which is actually the capital of Washington, if you did not know. It is not Seattle, Washington, which for some reason a lot of people think. So yeah, we live near the capital. And this is actually, about an hour to the west. So out towards, kind of more towards towards the peninsula. It's kind of to the west and a little bit to the north, I think, if I was looking on a map. But it's a very forested area. It's not like there's a big city near it or anything like that. So it's quite a ways away from any kind of big city. I think the closest one, like I said, is Montesano. And that's
Yeah. Okay. And so we started the race at 8. Do you want to talk about yours first, or?
Well, so the weather. I mean, I don't think we harped on that enough.
No, we didn't talk about the weather.
So, Washington is having some freak weather.
Storms.
So
crazy snowstorms.
Yeah, the week before, and maybe it was like 2 weeks before leading up to the race, but
no, it was a week because there was still snow everywhere.
Well, yeah. So we got a ton of snow, like the most snow I can ever remember seeing in my life.
It was on a Monday.
And we got like
all day, and it was so scary.
Yeah, we got almost
8
2
inches
feet.
or 9 inches. We had already had snow, so about 4 days before it had already snowed about 5 inches, and then like 2 days after that, another like 3 inches, and then on this Monday we got like 8 inches or something of snow on top of what we already had, and it snowed for like 8 hours. And then after that, it started raining out, so the roads were so bad. There was flooding all over the roads, just snow everywhere, all back roads you couldn't even drive on.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I mean, this is very unusual for our area. So we may get a little bit of snow each year, like 1 to 3 inches total, but this was, like I said, almost 2 feet that accumulated. Yeah, that's what people were calling it. Almost 2 feet that accumulated over the course of, the week and a half prior to this race.
Yeah.
So, but the week leading up to the race, it did rain a lot. And so a lot of the snow did melt, at least in the lower areas and, on the roads and things like that. So the roads were fine. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we get there and
there wasn't much snow when we got there either. So it looked like it was going to be a promising race. Like it wasn't raining. It wasn't really windy. There was like a little snow. It was cold. It was a little
like misty. Like it looked like it was going to rain for most of the day, and it did rain for some of the day.
Yeah, like an hour of the race or so.
But the hope was that there was not going to be a ton of snow on the trails, and the result was that hope was not founded, and it was very snowy on most of the trails. So it was this shitty kind of snow that is not only...
It's like slippery.
Well, yeah, you'd have some sections that were
like
just slushy
mushy
mud.
Yeah.
And then some sections that were like choppy ice. So you just couldn't really find any grip on it. And some people actually were using like Yak Tracks or like Catula micro spikes.
That would have been smart.
Yeah, for some sections, it definitely would have helped. So we didn't do that.
Nope.
Because I had no clue that it was going to be that bad. And the race directors actually sent out an email saying like, yeah, the snow, there's definitely going to be some on the course, but it's not looking that bad. And it turned out that, I mean, I would guess 80% or more of the trails were
I think
snow.
it was after mile 5, the rest of the race was snow.
More than that. It must have been like mile 2 or something like that. It was like pretty much right when we got up, like a couple hundred feet. The snow was just everywhere. So it made for an interesting race, I'll say that. It definitely made for some slow going. But yeah, I mean, it was just an element that we had to deal with. So like my perception going in was that I was going to kind of be trying to go fast the whole time and push my limit a little bit. But that was not the case. The snow not only slowed me down, but it also kind of messed with my mood a bit. I was actually pretty annoyed, especially with this one section in the race. So the race starts out, like we mentioned before, on a road. And that was all fine and dandy for me. I was fine running on the road. It's actually uphill. And so I just kind of ran along, not with the lead pack, but I was probably, I don't know, maybe in the top 10 for the most of the beginning, just kind of running up this road. And you could tell a lot of people were kind of blowing their loads, so to speak, a little early, running up that road. And I think I was fine. I just kind of played it by feel. And pretty much as soon as I felt like I needed to walk, because it was pretty steep for that first mile or so, I think I stopped running and started, power hiking up some of the steeper sections when it got to the trail. But for the most part, I think my first mile was like a 9 something, and it was almost all uphill. So, looking back on it, that's not typical of me to run that fast uphill. So maybe I did blow my load a little early. I don't know. But I actually felt pretty good for the first 5 or 6 miles. But then, yeah, like I mentioned, in that 5, I think it was from mile like 5.5 to 8. It was a pretty flat section, but it was just totally snow covered, and like it was kind of dug out so that all the water was pooling up in the center of the trail, and there was no escaping it.
The water was absolutely awful.
Yeah, I mean, up until that point, there were some puddles and stuff, but you could dodge them.
Yeah.
But once you got to this section, you pretty much had to just cave in and be like, all right, I need to resign to the fact that my feet are going to get totally soaked and covered in mud.
And it was freezing. I mean, it wasn't like warm water. It was like freezing water.
Yeah, there was snow in the water, cooling it even more. So it was, dare I say, miserable for a while. Pretty much after that point in the race, it was pretty miserable. I mean, my shoes stayed wet from that point on, to the point where it just felt like I walked through a river.
My shoes had water in them the whole time that was like slushing around. Yeah, which was kind of a bummer because that slowed things way down, and it hurt my feet, which I'm sure it did for everyone. Like, it caused more friction than I was used to. I thought I was going to get some pretty bad blisters and maybe lose a toenail, but luckily I didn't. So yeah, that mile 5 to like mile 8.5 or so, really almost to the next aid station, which we didn't mention earlier, which we probably should have, but there's only one aid station, and it's about halfway through the race. Well, a little further than halfway. It was right before mile 9, or right at mile 9, something around there. My Garmin said, I think, like 8.6 or something when I got there. So yeah, that section just fucking sucked. I hated it. Yeah, for me, the first...
Oh, and before you comment on that, that's where I started to walk and kind of gave up. I was like, because before that, I was running pretty hard and trying to stick with kind of towards the front. And then once I got in that section, at some point, I was just like, man, this sucks. Like, if this is how the whole race is going to be, because when you're running through that kind of snow, it's just like your ankle like kind of twists every now and then. And it was a real bummer. And I pretty much just started to have a little bit of a pity party, which is kind of funny, being at this race is relatively short, in terms of most of the races that we do. And so, yeah, like mile 5 or 6, I was like, oh, fuck it. I'm just going to like walk some of this because I hate running through this shitty snow. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, the first like 5 miles actually, or maybe it was like 4 miles. I don't know. It wasn't that bad. I was in a really good mood. I don't recall there being much snow in that timing. I can't really remember, but I don't think there was much snow. But then as soon as we got to the water, that's like instantly where I was like, man, this race sucks. Like there was actually a part at like mile 4 where they had a bunch of caution signs that in it, like this wouldn't have bothered me any other time, but it was just kind of annoying that I was doing a longer run. So there was this I guess it was a trail, but it was just like a big hill that you had to like climb down, and it was just pure mud, like slippery mud that it's like almost like clay mud. And so there was a rope, and I had no idea that there was a rope. So I slid down on my butt and just got mud everywhere on my hands, like all over my pants, on the back of my coat. Like it was just everywhere. I kept trying to wipe it off my hands, and that was awful because it was freezing out. And I could just feel like anywhere the mud was, I was soaked. And so I was wet, and it started raining. And so all in that time, that was pretty awful. Like I was soaking wet. It was raining out, and I was hot, but I didn't want to take my raincoat off because I was cold.
I was hot, but I was cold.
Well, it was like I was hot, but then like it was raining, and so it was just like, and so then the puddles came, and when the puddles came, I was already so cold. Like my upper body was hot, but my lower body was cold just from all that mud. And so having to like go through those puddles, my feet were so wet. I've never had my feet more wet on any run I've ever done. And having it be a race, it just was like kind of scaring me that I was going to have really bad blisters. And my feet started to get like heavy. Like it was like I was sitting in a bath for like 2 hours or something, just like the way that they felt all like pruny and they started to feel heavy. So that sucked. And then after that, at the aid station, right after the aid station was when there started to be like quite a bit more snow. And it was like that the rest of the race. Like it was, you ran like 6 or 7 miles the rest of the race just in this like weird ice snow that was like, if you went up or downhill at all, you slipped, like you were just slipping everywhere. Like it wasn't traction in any way. And so it was probably one of the scariest races I've done as far as like getting injured, because anytime I ran downhill, it was like a clay mud where I had to like spread eagle my arms, like try to like balance myself. Otherwise I was just going to fall down this hill. And it was like my knees kept giving out. Like they would just like buckle, and like it was a mess. Like I was so muddy, and like I wasn't like in a bad mood at all, but it was just really scary, like having to deal with that ice and water and slush and mud, and all of it was just like, it was a cool course. If there hadn't have been snow, like it reminded me a lot of like Capitol Forest. It was like he said, the hills and stuff was fine, but the rain and the mud and the snow and the ice and the water, it was all just one of the worst races I've ever done, like as far as feeling like I was going to get hurt.
Yeah, and weather conditions, it was probably the worst race I've ran for weather. Just in the sense that that kind of snow being there made it really unpleasant to run in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with that. The snow made it an interesting challenge. Yeah, I would say that.
That's a good way to put it. Because
again, I mean, I think when you do run a race like that, it's a good, dare I say, character builder. It's like, or, it improves your mental toughness, if you can quantify that. Basically, running through conditions like that, it's something you can look back on and be like, well, at least I'm not, back in the old Run Forest Run 25K situation where my feet were totally soaked at mile 5 and I'm freezing cold and I still have, 11 miles to go or whatever, 10 and a half miles to go. So from that perspective, it is what it is, and you got to make the best out of the situation. And so I think trying to keep a positive attitude in those situations definitely helps me.
I was actually really surprised at how positive my attitude was for that race, because I'm definitely, David will tell you, I'm like the first person to give up on anything, and especially running. Like, yeah, I will get angry at anything. But actually, I ran a majority of that, like any uphill, of course, I wasn't running. And on the downs when it was really scary, like I wasn't running, I was, I guess like power hiking it down. But for the most part, I was running every section that I could run, which for me, that's a big deal. And I made a lot of friends.
Yeah, I made no friends. Well, not during the race anyways.
I made like 5 friends. I passed a lot of people too on the downhill. But yeah.
Well, so for me, yeah, I was having that pity party between whatever mile 5.5 and 8 until I got to that aid station. And I get to the aid station and I just kind of like lazily come in and
Oh yeah.
and they're like, talking to me, and I think I had some Mountain Dew or something like that, and I'm just kind of hanging out. And I'm just like, oh yeah, this is a doozy, man. This snow is killing me. And one of the aid station workers is just like, yeah, you should probably get going. And I'm thinking like, man, that's kind of rude. Like, I just want to chill for a bit. And I was like, oh, why are you trying to push me out of here? Like, why are you trying to push me out of here? And she's like, well, you're in third place for the 25K right now. Like, you should probably get going if you want to, stay there. And I'm just like, oh, what? I was like, I don't think so. I think you're wrong. And she's like, no, I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm reading it right here. Like, you should probably get going. And I was just like, oh, shit. Okay, well, I guess I'll go. And so I took off and kept going. And if that hadn't happened, I probably would have been a lot less inclined to go fast for me anyways, that last, 7 miles or so. So yeah, that kind of lit a spark under me, and I started to get moving again, and I was actually trying to stay ahead of other people. So I guess what must have happened is a lot of the people in front of me, because there was definitely a lot of people in front of me at the time, they must have been the 50K runners, and I just didn't realize it, and the 25K wasn't nearly as competitive as the 50K must have been. So I kind of just like kept chugging for the rest of that race. I did experience some cramping in my calves, which I never have before in that way. And I attribute that to the snow because I don't know what else it would be. Like, it must just be like all my ankles bending in weird ways. So that kind of sucked because that started happening at like mile 11 or maybe mile 12. So I had like a few miles of dealing with that weird ankle or calf cramping that made it really hard to run. Because the last couple miles, like the last 2 miles of the race, are mostly on roads. So you can kind of pick up your pace if you are able to. And, normally if my my calves weren't hurting and cramping, I probably would have ran that section in like an 8-something minute per mile pace. And I think I ended up doing closer to 10. I think it was like high 9s or something like that. So a little bit of a bummer there. And, ultimately that cost me a couple places, I think. So I finished, let me tell you guys the actual finish time and stuff here. That's on Ultra Sign Up. So I finished 7th overall. Gender place was 5th, so I was the 5th guy. And the 2 people in front of me were only a minute in front of me. So kind of a bummer there. I could have gotten 3rd male over and 5th overall. But there was 2 girls that were way out in front of me, as well as the guy, which I think, those were the 3 people that were in front of me at that aid station anyways. So I did let a couple people pass me, I think. And so, yeah, but those guys were way in front of me. So I think my finish time was 2 hours and 50 minutes. And the winning time was 2 hours and 13 minutes, I think. So like a half an hour difference there. So quite a bit. So wasn't close to winning, unfortunately. But I think I was still pretty happy with what I did. I mean, at the time that I kind of resigned myself to being a bit of a baby in the middle of the race, I was hoping still, I was like, man, it'd be great if I could get top 10.
And he did.
And I did. So again, definitely not the most competitive race out there, but anytime you can get in the top 10 and up your Ultra Sign Up percentage rank, that's good. So I'm happy. I'm happy overall with how that went. So I didn't necessarily meet my goals per se, but it still was a good day for me. And I had some fun chilling out after the race.
Yeah. And for me, I didn't meet my goals either, but I'd say I pushed pretty hard for that race. I didn't anticipate all the snow. And so normally I would have walked a lot of that, or probably not even ran. Like anytime I get mad, I just walk. So I probably wouldn't have ran like any time that I saw snow, which I'm really happy that I found a couple of girls. There was one girl actually I came across. I can't recall what her name was now, but I think it was Shelly, but I could be wrong. But anyways, she helped me a lot. She wasn't doing very good at one point, and then she just started following me, and then we kind of both were pushing each other along at the end. We ran together for about 7 miles. Yeah, I think we We might have ran a little bit more than that, but I think actually we met at that first the only aid station. And then after that, we were kind of chugging back and forth. Like she would pass me, I would pass her, a couple girls would pass us, then we'd end up passing them. And it kind of was the same. And then finally we both were just like, we need to run down these hills instead of, a lot of people were walking really slow down the hills. And so we were trying to get around them. And she just stuck with me the whole time. And so towards the end, what David was talking about, those hills at the end where he was bombing, or couldn't really bomb them, but was somewhat running down those pretty fast. We were both having a hard time. It was hurting my calves really bad. My calves were pretty sore the whole race because of the snow. And then her quads were hurting really bad. And so anytime I would stop, she would just be really thankful that I was stopping because she kept saying that she was really tired. But we tried to run majority of anything we could. So I think she really helped me want to push instead of just feeling like I needed to walk. Because if there's anybody around, I always try to do better than what I normally would do or try to impress in any way that I can, which doesn't matter to anybody else. But so that was good for me. That really helped me push. But I finished in 4 hours and 29 minutes. And I was 43rd out of 60. And then I finished 22nd out of my gender group. So, I mean, not terrible, but not great. About the same as every other race I do, 50%. So
well, you did what you could.
So, I mean, not bad. But yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. I mean, I don't think I'd do it again, but it was a fun race. I mean,
well, yeah, let's talk about that. So the race itself, if you had to, I guess if you broke it up into, say, like how well it was organized, the race itself, including like the terrain and everything that it was on, and then like the support, which I guess kind of falls under how well it was organized.
I thought it was organized well. Like there wasn't anything, like I didn't get lost at all. There wasn't anything that made it unorganized. The weather just was a huge factor for me.
Yeah, I'd agree. So I would say I thought the race was organized very well, especially for, a small group, and the sign-up fee I think was $50 or something like that. So it was a relatively cheap race. And you did get a custom little piece of wood, which I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is hanging up here. I know the audio listeners cannot see that.
He made his of metal too. He drew a little hole in it.
Yeah, I drilled a hole in it and put a string through it. It's just to hang it up there. But anyways, it's essentially a block of wood. Well, that's not even totally accurate. What's cool about it is it's a branch, probably, that was cut from the course. Like there was some down trees I think that they made it out of. So that is kind of cool.
I didn't know
and
that.
It has a little tree stamped on it. So it's a nice little memento from the race. So it's not like your typical medal or anything like that. But it's still just a nice little keepsake.
That is cool.
And so, yeah, everyone at the race was super nice. Very sweet people. The organizers themselves were, I don't know, I talked to them after the race because I spent, like an hour or so
waiting
at the finish line, just kind of hanging out, waiting for Courtney. What was really nice is they had one of these heat stands that just emanates heat from the top of it. And me and a couple other girls were just standing around it, just absorbing the heat, waiting for some of the people to finish. And that was awesome. I'm so glad that was there. Like that was a lifesaver having that there. So, I really didn't like, I don't know if I would do it again, basically. The course itself is, again, it's kind of, the only reason I would do it again is because it's so close.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I think I would probably do it again.
But it's not a particularly, like, pretty area or anything like that. There's nothing that special about it.
There was kind of cool areas where there was, like, water and this, like, really cool bridge that you run under.
Meh.
I don't know.
I mean, kind of. I mean, it's nothing special is kind of what I would say. So for those looking to run this race, which is a pretty small race to begin with, so that pool of people is probably not many, but it does have some cool things about it. And, it's not a bad one to check out. And if it's your first race, I mean, it's nice because it's low key. Everyone's really friendly, but the aid stations, I mean, yeah, going, 8-9 miles without aid for your first race is kind of maybe not easy for some people. So if this is your first race that you're looking to do in like the trail world, I'd maybe go to a different race, check something else out first.
Yeah.
Especially because that first aid station being so far out. and the conditions, especially this time of year, you just never know what you're going to get. So I probably wouldn't recommend this as a first trail race to anyone. But if somebody asked me, hey, should I do this race? It's, it fits into my schedule. I'd say, yeah, go for it. I wouldn't do this over anything else though. That's available, but there's not much else available during this time. So yeah, not the best race overall, but
I didn't like the weather conditions, and I feel like if it would have been better weather, I would have enjoyed it more, but I think I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the vibe is really good, and that's largely just due in part to the community and the people organizing the event. So
it's always fun to meet new people too. And I always like it when I'm running and I meet girls on the trail.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. And again, it's nothing against the organizers or anything like that, because that was all wonderful. It's just, the race itself
was scary.
Yeah. Not necessarily my favorite, just because of the terrain and stuff like that. So
could have broke your ankle.
Definitely. Yeah. A little dangerous. Some technical sections, especially with the weather that came up. So
yeah. All right. What did you wear?
I wore, so the major things I wore, excuse me, the major things I wore, so let's start with the feet, because that seems to be what everyone cares about the most. I wore my Ultra Temp 1.5s. They were pretty good. The only issue I had is did
they drain well?
They drained pretty well, but the problem is that trail just had so many puddles, or so many places where they just filled your shoes with water that there never really was a good opportunity for them to drain. So I wore my Temp 1.5s with some Ultra Gaiters, which are just, this covering that goes over your ankle to prevent debris from falling into your shoe.
That would have been a really good race for me to have gaiters on.
Yeah, that definitely was a good race for me to have gaiters on. So the only thing that's a little annoying is I don't have the 4-point gaiter system. I just have the old 2-point gaiter system. So that leaves snow and things like that able to come up from underneath on the sides, which did happen to me quite a bit, which was a little annoying. I hate running with snow inside my shoe. It's kind of a icky feeling. But yeah, they did pretty good. They feel a little small to me. Like if I was going to buy them again, I would get a half size up. I mentioned that in my review video that I did a couple weeks ago, but definitely when they got wet, I felt that I wish I had a half size up, because my toes were starting to hit the front of them and stuff on some of those descents. So, and they do get really heavy when they're wet. I wore some wool socks with them, and those worked great. I think they were darn tough socks. They might be Smart Wool. I wear both of those all the time, so I like both Smart Wool and Darn Tough, and I like Injinji too, but this time of year I don't really have thick Injinji socks, and I like kind of thicker wool socks for the cold. My vest was my classic Solomon vest, although I got the new Solomon vest, the Sense, I forget, we'll talk about it in another episode, because I'm going to use that probably next week, but yeah, and then I just wore kind of my basic clothes. I wore some leggings, which I just wore straight leggings, no shorts. I know that's kind of controversial for some guys, because, you can see your junk sometimes. But I kind of don't care. Don't got much to hide. So.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so. And then I did wear, so like we mentioned, it did rain a little bit. So this is kind of important. I had my Outdoor Research Helium 2 waterproof, or at least at this point it's more water resistant than waterproof, but that jacket, the hybrid, Helium 2 hybrid, I love that jacket for running. So it's kind of hard to find nowadays, but if you can find one, I definitely recommend it, because it's super dope. And yeah, that was it. I think my favorite piece of gear I wore, as always, is my vest. I love that Solomon vest that I have, which is like a couple generations back for I forget what it's called, the Sense Pro or something. I forget now, but yeah, some old Solomon vest that's super awesome. And yeah, the Temps, they, like I said, they kind of didn't perform all that well, which I was a little bummed about, because I really love the Temps overall, especially the 1.0s. So the 1.5 is not really working too great in those conditions. Kind of bummed me out, but yeah, that's my gear review.
All right. So what I wore, I'll start with my feet as well. I wore the Ultra Superior 4s,
And you're a recent convert. You've been a Hoka girl.
I think I like both. So I actually don't like, well, I can't say I don't like. I haven't wore very many of the Ultra shoes, but I think I had 2 different pairs. I don't remember which ones they were.
The Challenger ATR 4s.
And there was another pair.
Nope.
You bought me a pair, and then I bought myself a pair.
You bought 2 pairs of the Challenger ATR 4s, yeah.
Well, I didn't like those. I've said it before a million times in this podcast, but my feet are terrible.
No, you like the Challenger ATR 4s.
Which ones were the ones you bought me for Christmas?
I didn't buy you Hokas.
No, I'm not talking about Hokas. I'm talking about Ultras.
Oh, Ultras. Yeah, but I got you the Superior 3.0s.
Okay, well, I don't know, but I didn't like those ones. For some reason,
Superior 3.0s kind of sucked.
The toe box was really tight. I have bunions. It really hurt my feet. They were super tight. They were light, but they did not work well for my feet at all. The zero drop bugged me. I just didn't like them at all. And then these ones, the Superior 4s, I bought them just kind of trying to see if I liked them. And then we went on a couple of just short runs, and they didn't bug my feet at all. I felt fine with them. I was using the rock plate as well, but they didn't bug me. Like, I felt fine. That toe box was wide enough. It didn't hurt my bunions. The shoes were flexible enough that my feet weren't hurting. The zero drop didn't bother me. And so I don't know. I like those, but I also really love Hokas. And so I think I'm just going to go back and forth, and the terrain.
Whoa.
Yeah, like depending on the terrain. I mean, if it's like going to be a really rocky course, maybe I'll wear my Hokas so I have more, I guess,
more cushion for the pushing.
But yeah, so I really liked those shoes. They worked really well for the race. They did get a lot of water, but I think my Hokas would have been worse, honestly.
I mean, those Superior 4.0s are very light.
Yeah, they were really light, even with the water in them. And my I wore Darn Tough socks as well, and my socks held up pretty well. No blisters.
I mean, I got some shit for my review that I did on the 4.0. People are not liking it.
I don't know. I really like them. They work really well for my feet.
Oh, I think people like the shoes in general. They just don't like the review I did of the shoes. Oh. Is what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, whatever. It's a different story.
But yeah. So I think if I had ran with the Hokas, they would have been a lot heavier. Probably wouldn't have drained as well. So I'm glad that I went with the Superior 4s for this race. And then I actually have been wearing a lot of David's gear. I should probably buy a lot of my own, but pretty much everything I wore for that was his. I wore a pair of his leggings. They were, what were they? What kind?
Just some New Balance leggings.
They're like a thicker winter type leggings, so those were really good. And then I wore, actually this same exact shirt is what I wore, just in black, Brooks running shirt.
It's a hoodie.
And then I also wore
I think it's called the Dash hoodie.
It's really great. We have 3 of them, and they're like the best to run in. I also wore one of his jackets, just a like super lightweight.
Cool.
Yeah. And then Nike gloves that were also his, and then a buff. And I think the buff was mine, but I could be wrong. But pretty much everything I had on was his. I should probably buy my own stuff, but
well,
but it works.
If it works, it works. Yeah.
So, and then I did wear a pack as well. Which pack did I wear?
Ooh, the old Ultimate Direction Anton Kuprichka like version. Who knows? It's like 5 years old.
Yeah, I like a lot of his packs that he has. I'm not like it. They don't really bug me very much. Although I did get chafing, and it wasn't from the pack. And
I think it was.
The pack doesn't reach that low though.
That's what you think.
I felt it. It wasn't the pack. I honestly think what happened was when I was saying that I got really hot, I probably should have taken off my coat, but I was also cold. And so I think just the friction of like my sweat and being so hot, that caused me to chafe. But who knows?
That along with the vest rubbing
it doesn't reach that low.
Well, agree to disagree.
Okay. Well, I did chafe. And that was really painful, but it's basically healed. So yeah. So you said your favorite piece of gear already or no?
God, you're not even listening to me.
You said what was your favorite piece?
Gosh.
Sorry. Well, my favorite piece of gear was...
It doesn't have to be, it's just whatever worked well for you in this particular race, or, what didn't work well for you. It doesn't have to be like favorite or least favorite. It's just whatever. Like, so I said, my vest worked very well for me, and my shoes did not work very well for me.
Yeah. Okay. So my favorite was my shoes. I actually thought they did really well. My feet were hurting, but it wasn't because of my shoes. It was just the amount of water and, the pounding over time. But I'd say what I think didn't work well for me, I don't know. I think everything I wore worked pretty well. I'd say maybe I wouldn't have brought in gloves because I only wore the gloves for 4 miles, and then I put them in my pocket, and it was really annoying for them to like bounce around in my pocket the rest of the race. So maybe wouldn't have worn gloves. But other than that, it was really cold when we started, so I don't regret it.
I'll tell you what, my post-race attire was not up to speed.
Yeah,
that's weak.
Yeah.
I forgot my shoes and stuff,
and then I was bummed because he was wearing my slippers, and I didn't want them to get dirty, and it was raining out.
Yeah, that was a bit of a bummer, but what are you going to do?
Well, yeah. So now what's next for us?
Yeah, we're at an hour, I think. We're at an hour on the podcast, which is our goal limit that we try to reach here. I'd like to get every episode to be about an hour long with, hopefully relevant information to the episode. So yeah, let's wrap this up and get some Uber Eats. And, so what's next? Basically, we signed up for the DuPont half marathon. So that's DuPont, Washington. This is even closer. So this was another race where, heck, it's like 20 minutes away. I actually
just asked him like 4 days before the race because I had it on my list of like something I thought I wanted to do, and then I was like, you know what, we should just do this because I need to get in a long run this week and it's close, and why not do a race versus just going out in the woods? So
yeah, so it's tomorrow.
Yeah,
we're filming we're shooting this on Friday.
Yep,
the 22nd of February.
So it'll be the 23rd.
So yeah, tomorrow we're doing this race. So we had to get this podcast filmed before we do that one, so we don't mix the two up when we're talking about them.
Yeah. So we'll be doing that one.
And yeah, that's just a half marathon, which I've actually looked at running. This was almost the first race I ever ran.
Oh, really?
It was on my list, at least I think. I'm not sure if it's this exact version of it, but there was a DuPont trail half marathon that I was looking to do for my first trail run. And I didn't do it because I don't remember why. But I didn't do it, and I ended up doing the Capitol Forest 25K as my first. But yeah, so I'm kind of excited to go see what's up because, again, this is super close to us. This is like 20 minutes or less away from where we currently live. So it'll be nice to check out the local scene even more. And again, not a race I've done before, so I'm excited to see what it's all about and to win yet again.
And I'll probably be back of the pack yet again, but I don't mind. I'm just excited to get another race in, get some miles in. And this one's not very, it's about 1,000 feet.
Yeah, it's pretty flat. Yeah. It's pretty flat. And, so just
quite
to
a bit of
clarify,
roads, too, actually. It sounds like we're crossing.
Well, who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just to clarify, I don't expect to win. By the way, that's a joke. It's a joke because I have no chance of winning.
He doesn't know that. You didn't look at the people's stats.
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
that's how I know.
I don't ever look at anybody's stats because I know I have no shot. So I just go into it and have fun.
It has to be, not many people have to show up for me to win. So yeah, it's a long shot for sure. But who knows? You never know. Maybe people get sick. Maybe they get injured. Maybe they get off course. I don't know. That one, actually, dang, we didn't talk about that. But a lot of people cheated.
They cheated. Yeah, for the Run Forest Run. There was, there was a lot of people that were cutting the course.
Yeah. Because with that storm we had, there was a lot of downed trees and things like that. So there's people that would just like cut, it'd be what seems insignificant, but really it adds up when you do it a couple times, when you cut like 10 or 20 feet off the course because, there's switchbacks and you see a down tree and you just cut straight down. Mm-hmm. That's kind of messed up. You shouldn't do that, even though it may be annoying to try and climb through this tree that's down or this big branch. But to cut the course like that during a race, I don't know. I'd like to know what other people think about that because my opinion is you shouldn't do that. But for some people, especially for somebody who's shorter, if you're like 5 foot and there's this big tree and you can't really get over it, maybe you do have to cut the course. I don't know.
I wouldn't cut it. and I'm 5'2", so.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't cut any of the course, and I know some people.
I watched people in
front
of
me that cut the course. I watched them do it, and I'm just like,
yeah,
shame, shouldn't do that. I mean, they probably would have beat me anyways, but
they did beat me.
Still, you shouldn't. I mean, for one, it keeps the trails maintained. It doesn't. Sorry, that's not exactly true. It preserves the existing areas around the trails if you do not walk on them. So try to stay on the trails when you can, and especially during a race, because I mean that's just straight up cheating if you cut the course. So
that's why a lot of times I don't like the out and backs, especially if there's no chip. It's like if no one's around you, you just turn around and go back.
I've seen dozens of people.
I don't remember what the
Stewart
race
Lake.
Was. Is that what it was? Where you did the where it was snowing?
Yeah, I did the half and you did the 10K.
So on that straightaway, every person that was in front of me, they just turned around. Like they didn't even go to the wall.
Yeah.
And I hate that.
But yeah, that was one thing about the race that we didn't talk about, I guess. And it put a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth because I'm just like, dude, come on, guys. Let's
yeah, if you're out there to do a race, I mean, I wouldn't just do the course. Like, why would you cut it?
Yeah.
Why try to cheat?
Well, I mean, I guess.
Especially if you're not getting first.
I guess one counter argument would be, you don't want to get hurt climbing over a tree out in the woods when you're that far away from. So, maybe there's reasons, but I didn't have any trouble getting over any of the downed limbs or anything like that.
I didn't have trouble, and I'm short. And I'm definitely very, very clumsy.
I'm an agile boy.
I am not agile. I trip, fall, twist my ankle all the time, which I did.
I say that now, and now next week in DuPont, the flat half marathon, I'm going to trip and fall or something. But yeah. So.
Yeah, that's annoying.
That's what's
Don't do
next.
that.
DuPont Marathon is next. Oh,
yep.
We're running the half marathon. There is a marathon option, but screw that.
Yeah, there's a 12K, there's a marathon, and then there's a half, and we're doing the half. So.
And then after that, dude, we're going on our grand vacation.
Yeah.
Which we might even film the podcast on vacation.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Might happen. Who knows? Probably won't happen, but maybe.
We'll be going...
We're going to Utah, baby.
Yeah, Utah. It's the Behind the Rocks 30K. So we're going to make a road trip out of that. And
going out to Moab.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So, yeah, maybe...
And we're both doing the 30K for that, right?
Yep.
Wow, look at 3 races, all the same.
What do you mean the same?
We both did a 25K.
Oh, I thought you were saying the same distance or something. I'm like, what?
No.
Yeah. I mean, aren't we both doing the Yakima Skyline Rim 50K too? Or are you doing the 25?
I'm not doing 50K.
Okay.
No way.
Ooh, that's coming up.
Yeah.
That's on 420. Interesting. Okay. Well. So yeah, that's what's up. The next 3 races, like I mentioned, we're doing the DuPont Trail half marathon here February 23rd. And then exactly 1 month later, March 23rd, we're going on vacation, road tripping down to Utah. We're driving all the way there from Olympia, Washington. And then we're going to go down to Arizona on that same trip and do some running down there. So actually, we'll probably do an episode that just is the whole vacation, including the race. But because we're probably going to do some running down in Flagstaff. And if we head down there or the Grand Canyon, maybe do a rim to rim to rim.
And I'm not doing that.
Well, maybe. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe
I'm not
just
doing rim to rim to rim.
Maybe just a rim to bottom to rim.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. So maybe we'll record it when we get back, and we'll just do talk about the whole trip, because a lot of the trip is going to be focused on running.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're just cruising along this
having
year. A good time.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Hopefully we stay injury free and
hopefully I keep up on my training.
Keep rocking.
Yeah.
Was there anything else in terms of formatting that we wrote down that we wanted to cover?
No.
All right.
Looks like we covered it all.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for watching or listening, whichever way you're consuming this content. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Again, we'll check you guys
probably in like a week or so, maybe.
Yeah, this might be a week or so. We'll probably try to get this out in a week. I'm actually traveling to Georgia.
Ah, I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah, I leave on Monday. Going to Savannah, Georgia on Monday.
Oh, that's sad.
Probably won't record that episode until I get back, or unless we do it Sunday night. I don't know. I'm going to be really busy this weekend, so.
All right, guys.
All right.
Well, it's been fun. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
And
listening. All right. Bye, guys.
See ya.